'tis I. Hey everyone, glad to see you back, glad to see you looking fresh, and today is the day we talk about my favorite films of 2023, my personal favorite list I make every single year. I've been making this list even before I've been making videos. I love talking about movies, I love, making this end of the year list. It's a big stress I put upon myself to try to watch every movie I can by the end of the year, to try to pull this list together. And this year, it was a bit tough. It's been a big up and down kind of year with some very high highs and some low lows with like the delays and the strikes and all that kind of stuff. But we still have a great list here of 20 great films. If you follow me on Letterboxd, these are films that I've rated 8 or above. This is just a list of my personal favorites. Of course, I have not seen every single movie that came out this year. There are a few off the top of my head that I know very easily probably could have been on this list if I just, had a chance to see them. But I'm just one guy, and unfortunately, I'm not able to see everything in a single year, nor will I think I'll ever be able to see every movie I want to see in a single year before the end of the year. So, it just is what it is. But anyways, let's jump into this thing. We have 20 movies to talk about here, so let's go. Number 20. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, I personally believe, is the greatest TMNT film ever made. The style of this film is unlike pretty much anything I've ever seen before. The animation is new to this. It's 3D. It does that kind of Spider-Verse thing where it's 3D but kind of looks 2D, but it's its own flavor. It's like graffiti come to life is what it kind of feels like, where there's half-baked visuals where looks like it's markings on a page, this will work on this later, but that's the style of the movie. And it works for what it's going for. It's really cool. On top of that, the story is just really good. The TMNT actually feel like teenagers, which is an important part of their name that a lot of adaptations just kind of skim past. But this film really captures that coming-of-age story that the TMNT has needed for a long time. Number 19. No Hard Feelings. I love Jennifer Lawrence. I have since 2011, 2012. Hunger Games, X-Men First Class. I've been a big fan of her since then. I also think she can be really funny, but I don't think she gets a chance to be really funny very often. So when she's in a new rom-com this year, a genre that's, albeit kind of dying, unfortunately, it's great. It's hilarious. I didn't laugh harder at a movie this year, I don't think. It's really, really well made. And it's just a little raunchy, it's a little bit, but whatever. It's an R-rated comedy. That's a genre that we do not get a lot of anymore. And I think this is one of the best out there. I think it's one of the best of the year. I think her co-star, who unfortunately I'm blanking on his name right now, has a great future ahead of him. The casting is really good. Of course, she's really good, but the whole movie around her is great. Number 18. Tetris. I think this is a movie that's been kind of forgotten about when the year kind of went on. It kind of made a decent splash when it came out. It's a movie about Tetris, the movie about how Tetris got to be kind of what it is. And it's a really cool, true story, the true asterisks when it comes to movies. I'm sure this movie has been embellished to create a grander story, but it's still really good. I'm a big fan of Taron Egerton, and he does a great job in this. And the story of Tetris is one that I don't think a lot of people know or really understand or really grasp. It's oh yeah, it's a game that came with the Game Boy. But how did it's not Nintendo made, so how was that the one that was packed in with the Game Boy, There's a whole movie to tell you how it happened. I do think it got kind of buried on Apple TV+. But if you have that service, seek it out. It's a really good time. Number 17. Gran Turismo is another really good movie that's video game-esque, but not video game-based, if that makes any sense. Tetris is about the game Tetris, but it's not a film adaptation of the game. Same with Gran Turismo. It's about Gran Turismo, but it's not a film adaptation of the game, kind of how Need for Speed was. It's the true story about how Gran Turismo was used to find an F1 racer. And a story that I had never even heard of. Someone who kind of lives and breathes in the gaming sphere, I had never heard of a story like this before, but it's a true story. And it's a classic sports drama kind of story, an underdog tale about a no-name climbing the ranks and becoming one of the best in the world. It's a tried and true formula. Trying to Formula One. You see where I'm going with this? But if you like sports movies, you're gonna like this. If you like video games, you should like it. If you like Cars. There's a lot of different kind of groups that it's grabbing towards, but I think all of them will be satisfied with this. Number 16. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 is, of course, the first half of the Dead Reckoning film. It's not a saga, duology, whatever. It's another Mission Impossible. It takes a little step back from the last movie, Fallout, which I adore. I think Fallout's one of the best movies, period. So I wasn't really expecting it to try to surpass that one, but it does take, a step back, a bit more simplified, a bit slower, a bit more like character-driven. It does still have some grand spectacle and some great effects, and Tom Cruise gives it all in every single movie he's in, so there's no complaints in that department. It is a bit lower on this list than, I would have expected going into the year. I think when we have the whole story, maybe I'll appreciate it a lot more. But as it stands, it's still a really great film that kind of and it has a good satisfying ending for what it is, but I'm excited to see what the actual ending is. Number 15. Scream 6 is the highest horror movie on the list. I kind of dropped the ball in a lot of horror movies this year, but Scream 6 is one that I was very excited to see. I was a big fan of Scream 5, and I was a little bit nervous because it was like a very quick, 1 year turnaround, and then all of a sudden we have Scream 6. I was a little bit like, oh no, are we gonna really mess this one up? But they didn't. And it kind of harkened back to slashers of the 80s would just come out once a year. And this one isn't formulaic and basic as something like that would be. It goes in a new direction. It takes it out of the normal small town suburb-esque feel and then drops it in New York City, giving it an entire new flavor. And when it comes to slasher franchises, something like that smells like the end of the franchise. But this, quite possibly, is my favorite Scream movie. And with all the stuff going behind the scenes with Scream 7, I don't know if we're going to see that movie, especially not how it was originally intended. So if this is the end of the franchise, at least for now, it's a good place to end. Number 14. Killers of the Flower Moon. Martin Scorsese's back. He's back making a more than 3-hour-long movie. When it comes to Scorsese, what can you say that hasn't been said already? He's a master of the craft. I'll watch whatever he's making now. If he wants to make a 4-hour movie about whatever, I'll be there. Even if I'm The Irishman, I wasn't super interested in seeing, but I sat through it because of who's behind it, who made it. And he's just one of the greatest artists that this medium has seen. And so, of course, I was going to watch this. Me and my dad, Christmas, after the normal festivities were done, sat down and we watched this. I rented it for him, and we had a good time. He was a bit confused. It has it's a big story. It's a big tale about, murders in a Native American tribe, and it's dark subject matter, but it's enthralling watch. 3.5 hours, sometimes you feel the weight, sometimes you're wow, I've been doing this all day, but sometimes it just starts cooking and you lose yourself in it. It's one of a kind what Scorsese is able to do now, and by all means, go support it. Number 13. Shin Kamen Rider. I don't think I could have put 2 more different movies next to each other if I tried. Shin Kamen Rider comes to us from Hideaki Anno off of Shin Godzilla, which we got a little bit ago, and of course The Last Evangelion. Needless to say, Hideaki Anno is one of my favorite directors as well. It's a good year for masters of the craft. Hideaki Anno comes in, takes another franchise that he's loved for a long time, this time being Kamen Rider, one that I know next to nothing about, versus Godzilla, which I know a lot about, and crafts this movie, which, doesn't hold your hand. It's we're going. If you know what Kamen Rider is, I suppose you would be just on board from the get-go. Someone like me who has no idea what the heck is going on, I was just thrusted into the deep end of the pool and being sink or swim, buddy. So it's a lot. It's a visual onslaught of a lot of stuff, and sure the effects are kind of wonky and whatever, but I feel that's part of the charm. Are bad effects on television back in the day with the original Kamen Rider. So we kind of cheesify it now to make it more fun. Maybe that's some copium, but it's so much fun, this movie. It's so hard to recommend this movie though, but if you watch the trailer and you're that seems interesting, then go give it a try, but it's a tough one to recommend, that's for sure. Number 12. Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. What a great Dungeons & Dragons movie. I have played Dungeons & Dragons for a few years, and, it's not my favorite game in the world. I have friends that love it a lot more than I do, and, I love playing with them regardless. But it's still great to see a game adaptation that truly loves its source material. And you can feel it. You can feel like people who have played Dungeons and Dragons wrote this movie. And there are little bits and bobs that, like, you can just write a fantasy tale with name drops from the Forgotten Realms, and people will be like, yeah, okay, that's fair enough. That's Dungeons and Dragons. You know, this one's a barbarian, that one's a wizard, done and done. But, like, there's little nods to where, like, how the bard is, like, kind of useless, but, like, all of a sudden does something really cool in, like, a very specific instance, or, like, how the barbarian has a great idea to throw an axe into a rock, and, like, that'll solve all our problems. Like, it's just some very silly situations where you would not have just come up with that if you did not sit at a table with your friends and just nonsense came out of someone's mouth and you remembered it forever. Like, that's what Dungeons and Dragons is, and that's what this movie is, and it captures it so wonderfully.
Number 11.
The Boy and the Heron, the new Studio Ghibli film, the new film by Hayao Miyazaki. Like I said, good year for Mastercraft directors here. We do not get a lot of Ghibli films at all anymore. I mean, we never really did, but, like, the pace has slowed down a lot over the last decade or so. And so it's always a treat. And this is the very first time I was able to go to a theater, you know, see Totoro up on the big screen, that blue Totoro that says Studio Ghibli. And I knew I was in for something special. And it was special. That's what the thing is about The Boy and the Heron is. It's not like anything else out there. I could equate a little bit to, like, a Spirited Away, maybe. But even then, like, they are entirely different stories about different characters going through different problems. And the way things wrap up and the way the story goes, and it's wildly different. Like, nothing is quite like The Boy and the Heron, because no creator is quite like Hayao Miyazaki. So, until we get his next final goodbye, this could be it. I don't know. But I think this is a much better send-off than The Wind Rises is. Just an absolute great Ghibli film.
Number 10.
Heading into our top 10, Air. You know, Ben Affleck's new movie. I wouldn't say Ben Affleck is quite a masterclass director like some of the other ones quite yet. I do really like Ben Affleck's directing. Of course, I like Ben Affleck and Matt Damon bouncing off each other in whatever movie they're doing. I love seeing them together. This movie is a lot more up my alley than some of the other ones behind it, even though I don't think this movie is necessarily better than some of the ones we've talked about already. This movie, you know, I love the 80s aesthetic. I love 80s music. I love the fast-pacedness of it. I love, like, the light comedy, the biopic-ness essence of it. All things about this movie speak to me. It's just a great, solid, quick watch. It's a ton of fun. Obviously, if you, like, hate Nike, you won't like it. If you hate basketball, you're not gonna like it. But man, if you just let it sweep you up. And, like, it's the 80s, baby, let's go. Like, you're in for a great ride. And I'm stoked that it came out on disc, considering it was an Amazon Prime original. It got bought out by Amazon. But it came on disc, and that's really great. You know, what can I say about Air? It's great. When it came out, it was called one of the best of the year, but it also came out in, like, March, so, like, of course. It was called one of the best of the year because it came out early, but it's not one to sleep on, even if we've gone, you know, months past it. It's still great. I still love Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, and whatever they want to do, I'll be there.
Number 9.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the only MCU film to make the list this year. It does seem kind of crazy to me that 8 years ago, MCU would have dominated the list. Every movie from MCU slate in a given year would be on the list. And we're at the point now where it's like they make one great movie a year, which it is kind of sad, but I mean, at the same time, I remember being in the theater for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. It made me remember why I love these movies so much. It felt like a true MCU movie again. And I chalked it up pretty much all to James Gunn, I feel, and his great cast and the great team he works with. They did not miss. This is the most emotional an MCU movie has ever made me feel. It is heartbreaking. It is dark. It is grim. It is brutal at times. Like, even for, like, hardened, like, film buffs like myself, I've seen some gross stuff in movies before, but, like, Guardians 3 still, like, hit deep at times. It is not a light watch. But, it still has some of that Guardians fun and charm and playfulness and other times, too. So, to be able to strike an intense balance like that, I think only someone like James Gunn can pull that off. And, of course, I am super excited to see what he does next with DC.
Number 8.
The Killer, directed by David Fincher, another master director. I wasn't kidding. A great year if you love iconic directors. But David Fincher films are few and far between. There are not many of them. And they always kind of feel like an event to me as they come out. The last one was in 2020, and the last one before that was 2015. Like, they're sparse. It's slow to come out. But, when it comes down to it, The Killer it feels stripped back. It feels like a film that you would make as like a directorial debut, maybe. It feels like a film that you're trying to prove yourself. You're trying to prove you can do it. You got that hunger in you. Like, I have a great idea. I know how to capitalize on it. Let's go for it. But it came from a director that knows, like, every, intricacy of, every shot composition they want to use. And, I've seen some behind-the-scenes work of, how David Fincher works. And I strive to be, that level of detail-oriented that man can pull off. Because, man, does he just know so much about this craft that, I may never know about any certain craft, but he nails it. He knows things. The minute details that you can see in a film like this is off the chart. And it's slow a little bit at first. You may take you a little bit to seek into it, but after that first 20 minutes, it's just kind of dawdling on. And it's droning, and it's slow, and you kind of feel it, and you're like, this is something. This is something. And it's but let it seep into you. And after that 20 minutes, all of a sudden its hooks are deep. And I was boom, 2 hours are done. And I was like, what? I remember the movie was over. And I checked it. I'm like, it's been 2 hours. Yeah, I guess. It felt like it had only been an extra 20 minutes on top of that first one. That movie moves after that first little bit. It's something special, The Killer is. I mean, it's one of my favorite directors of all time. So, absolute great work.
Number 7.
The Holdovers, Alexander Payne's new film. It's a Christmas-y film. It's a Christmas film. It's a Christmas film. Put this on your Christmas list, watch list, whatever you want to call it. Your 25 best Christmas movies. Holdovers should be on there. It is cozy, it is warm, but it's also, it definitely does have that little bit of edge that's not make it pure Christmassy. The story about kid who got left behind at his boarding school during Christmas break, and the teacher who has to stay behind and watch him. And it's a great story about two guys who would never see eye to eye otherwise being forced to connect, and human connection, and just it feels like a 70s film. It feels like an old-timey 70s. It feels like an older film. It feels, like I said, it just feels warm. It just feels comforting. It feels inviting, even when it's not. Even when it's striking back and it's not trying to be warm and comforting. It still has that heart and that warm soul in it that not a lot of movies have. And like I said, if you didn't get this chance to see it this year, by all means, watch it around, the holiday season next year, because I don't think it'll disappoint.
Number 6.
Barbie. Number 6. It's still weird that there's still a strange stigma about me saying Barbie is the 6th movie of the year. I feel like I should be past this, but I'm not. I see, all the people in my life that, if I said 15 years ago that Barbie was my favorite movie of the year, I didn't say that, but let's say I did. It's in the 6th spot. It's pretty close. That I would be belittled, made fun of, all this stuff, but, it is. It's simply put, Barbie is one of the best movies of the year. One of the finest pieces of film out there. It is an incredible screenplay. It's very funny. It talks about a lot of important topics. It brings a lot of light to some darker themes in brighter ways, and it's able to do it comedically. It's able to do it with mostly by not shoving it down your throat. And it's just simply put, it's incredible to look at. The set design, the creativity, everything around this movie. They clearly, delved into some deep history on what Barbie is and all the different toy lines and what do they mean for different people, and it's so well made. That's the bar none. It's so well made. And I had a wonderful time watching this in a packed theater this year. A year with some very up and down box office. Packed theater. Laughing like crazy watching this. Absolutely would love to do that again.
Number 5.
John Wick Chapter 4 did not have a subtitle like Parabellum did, but whatever. Just Chapter 4 is seemingly the final chapter in the John Wick saga. So, how did it go out? With a bang, obviously. Lots of them. It's almost 3 hours, this movie clocks in. Almost 3 hours of near nonstop action. There are downtimes. There's time to catch your breath, but the movie does not want you to catch it. It wants you to go, 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 go. And for a movie to have nearly 3 hours of nearly nonstop action, and not one time did I get bored. Not one time did I feel like, all right, let's get on with it. Let's see what the next story beat is crazy to me. I liked the first John Wick. I really hopped on board the second one, and then from there, I was good to go with all of these. This one, of course, may be the best one of the bunch. They may have just continuously got better as they came out. Would it be sad to see this one be the last one? Yeah. Could I see how they do another one? Possibly. If they kind of go for it. I don't want to spoil how this movie goes, but if this is the end of John Wick's story, what a saga. 4 movies, we normally only get 3, so 4 movies, what a time. What a great time. Love those John Wicks.
Number 4.
Oppenheimer. Of course, this and Barbie are like the two. I feel like I'm going to appear on so many people's lists, as they both should. Very rarely do we get a great double feature, especially one of this caliber, and then it be blown up into such a cultural event. Like, you had to see both of these in theaters. Like, it wasn't like a one side versus the other. It wasn't like, I'm Team Barbie, I'm Team... It's like, no, go see both. Let's go celebrate the movies together. And it was a wonderful day at the movies doing that. Oppenheimer, it's kind of crazy that I got grouped in to that, because this is not like an easy watch. Christopher Nolan, another master director, going out there making almost a 3-hour movie about the man, J. Robert Oppenheimer, who helped create the atomic bomb. And it's half of it is like the lead up to the bomb, and the other half of it is the ramifications of the bomb. And it's a lot of like people in rooms talking. But man, is it so gripping. People like spitting fire at each other. The cast in this is enormous. It'd take me forever to try to remember all of them, but like, just leave it short. Cillian Murphy, amazing. Robert Downey Jr., also amazing. Emily Blunt's amazing. Like, I can go on and on and on, but like, just an amazing movie about, such an important part in our human history. Not American history, not just World War, human history. Like, this central figure in what changed the world and the ramifications of all of that. It's an intense watch. Will I watch it again? I'm sure I'll sit down and watch it again. But it is an intense one-time through. And I think it's a movie that almost everybody should see.
Number 3.
Creed 3. All right, top 3 times. So Creed 3, I love the Creed movies. I've said that before. I'm no shy person about it. Creed is probably, like, this point, one of my favorite trilogies and one of my favorite franchises. Of course, it's attached to Rocky, so it has a little bit of a boost, but love Creed to death. The first one without Sylvester Stallone in it, I think the torch is passed successfully. I didn't really miss Stallone. There was like a couple scenes where it would have made sense for him to show up, but other than that, I think the torch is very securely passed on to the next generation. This film also means a little bit more to me than just being another great Creed movie. I lost a pet right around the weekend that this movie came out. This movie deals with loss of a loved one, and it deals with some grieving, and it helped me a little bit express my emotions and feelings with a tough time like that. My pet was 20. Like, she'd been around a long time, like almost my entire life. So losing her, it was very hard. So a movie like this, Rocky movies are never subtle with what they're trying to say. Creed movies aren't either. But having at least a something to like say like you're not alone. Like people like go through this and like there's people around you. It helped a lot. And I think that's why I elevate a little bit higher. I don't think it's gonna be a lot of people's top 3, but it is for me. I love it. And yeah, if you haven't gave the Creed franchise a shot, by all means, now is the best time.
Number 2.
Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse was my number 1 for a heck of a long time this year. Months. This film sat untouched as number 1, and I felt like nothing could bring it down, as this movie gave me an amazing theater experience, like months of discussion with friends, some of the best characters I've ever seen in a movie, the best music that I've listened to constantly, one of the best, if not the best, animated movies I've ever seen. The animation is beautiful. This movie, like, is so effortlessly great. There's one scene, of course, where I'm sure you've seen, like, still images of it, of Miles and Gwen sitting upside down, and this the New York skyline flipped on its head. And the movie so effortlessly just, like, whoops around to be upside down, and it just doesn't, like, draw attention to itself. It's not like, hey, look, we're gonna do something cool. It just does it. And it so effortlessly does it. And I don't know how the movie does it. How is it so good? How is it so good? How does it just do that without being, like, a big deal? Like, that's just a thing that kind of happens. You know, there's one time there's hundreds of Spider-Men flying across the screen. They're different, like, effects are going later on in the movie. Like, there's so many characters in this that it shouldn't feel crowded. It should feel overpacked and overstuffed, and like not enough people have their own screen time. But like, it doesn't. It's just so good. There's so little to complain about. Obviously, it has a cutoff that does it feel earned. I mean, it definitely left me wanting more. Is this movie fully satisfying on its own though? Not really, because of that. You know, it's an amazing ride up to that point, but like there's just that little bit extra that, you know, in how many years until the next one, it'll feel unfinished. When it's done though, I may feel completely different. But as it stands, number 2 of the year, it's not too big of a penalty for something like that. That being said, there is one better.
Number 1.
Godzilla Minus One. As not a super long-standing Godzilla fan, but definitely like a big Godzilla fan. A few years ago, during the pandemic, I set myself on a mission to watch every single Godzilla movie, and I meant every single one. The original Toho movies, all different versions, the Americanized versions, the anime versions. I didn't watch like the shows, but I did watch a show. I've seen every Godzilla movie, every extended universe Godzilla thing, the Rodan movie, of course, the Mothra movie, and all the side stuff around all of it. No Godzilla movie left me feeling like this one did. Almost every single time, except maybe the first one, left me rooting for Godzilla in some way, shape, and form. When's he coming? When's he gonna destroy Japan? When's he gonna destroy America sometimes? Like, where's he at? Like, let's see him break some stuff. Never, not once did I lash on to the human characters in a way where I'm like, I really want them to succeed. I really want them to beat Godzilla. Until Minus One, where for long chunks of it, if you took Godzilla just out of it, it could be an absolutely wonderful, you know, post-war drama about people trying to rebuild their lives after devastation. But then you add the big guy. You add the King Kaiju himself, and you throw him into this, and you just make their lives worse. And it's like, man, do I want to see these people beat up that lizard? Why is he doing this? You know, Godzilla doesn't need a purpose. The best Godzillas, sometimes he didn't have a purpose. He just existed. He's like a force of nature. He's like a hurricane. A hurricane doesn't have a purpose for destroying a city. Godzilla doesn't have a purpose for destroying a city. He just does it. So, like, you want to see them stop this monster from destroying their town and their lives and their families. And it's so perfect. It's the best Godzilla movie ever made. Ever made. I see arguments for my favorites. You know, all my favorite Godzilla movies, the original, obviously. I love Versus Destroyer. I love Shin Godzilla. I love GMK. I love the original Mothra. That's not really a Godzilla movie, obviously, but like this movie beats all of them because it finally gets what was missing, and that's the humans. You know, I've liked human characters in Godzilla movies before the 2016 Shin Godzilla, the original, and Dr. Zerazawa. Like, there's been good characters, but they've never been great. You know, I picture them all in my head, right? I can't name them all. There's a lot of characters to name. I've only seen the movie once, but picture them all in my head. All of their stories make sense. All of them I want to see succeed. All of them, and I don't want to see any of them die. I don't want to see any of them stepped on or laser blasted, but like, and then, you know, I've talked about the human stuff. I talked about the great post-war drama. If we just look at it as a monster movie, as a Godzilla movie, man, oh man, the effects, amazing. I don't know how they made this movie so cheap, to be honest with you, but like, wow. The sound design, that Atomic Breath has never sounded better. And the score, oh my god, I was giddy in my seat when the original theme came blasting through the speakers. That like foghorn that, you know, it just came pounding in, and it just like hit a couple times, and then like at the culmination, the marks came flying in, and I was gripping the arms. I was so excited. I was like a child watching this movie. Man, no movie can do this year. Spider-Verse came close. Of course, loved a lot of it. I loved a lot of that movie. I loved Creed 3, as I talked about, but Godzilla Minus One, if you're not a Godzilla film, I don't think would be your number one this year. If you are like me, if you've seen all of it, you have that extra context to it, it's the best movie of the year. I adore this movie. I cannot wait to see it again. I want to show it to as many people as I can. I watched it. I don't even know if it has a dub, to be honest with you. I watched it in original Japanese. You know, watching the dub, I don't know. I've seen a lot of dubbed Godzilla, some better than others, but, you know, maybe I'll try it in dub. I'll see how it feels. Maybe it'll be better, maybe it'll be worse, but, like, you know, I want to show this to as many people as I can. And unfortunately, some people don't want to watch a foreign language film, but, man, did I love this movie, and I cannot wait to see it again. So, that'll about do it for my 20 favorite movies of the year. What did I miss? What movies did I not talk about here that you are screaming at me, why didn't you see it? I've seen a decent amount of movies this year. Of course, I missed some, like I said before, so, you know, let me know in the comments. I'll let you know if I've seen them. How about that? We talk about the ones, the honorable mentions. There's a lot here, so I don't really do honorable mentions with these ones, but there's some big ones that I've seen that just got cut off. There was, like, 6 movies that had to get cut after number 20, so it was a bit tough this year, but by all means, let me know any movies that you've seen that I did not talk about here. Let me know. So thank you so very much for watching, and as always, like this if you like this, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you at some point.